because you do address threats that a group of, I guess, kitchen workers had in Ireland. You show this extremely clear picture of a UFO that they took, and apparently they were visited by some men in black on
Yeah,
a rainy afternoon after.
if I had a dime for every time I've heard that story. Yeah, that's the Calvine, the 1990 Calvine UFO event, and I'd heard about it over 20 years ago from Nick Pope, who was at the UFO desk at the Ministry of Defense for a couple of years back in the late 90s, mid to late 90s. Was he? Yeah, mid to late 90s, maybe 92 to. Anyway, David Clark is the one that uncovered that photograph. Thank you, David. And that's probably what I would consider, I've been at this for 30 years, the best photograph of a UFO ever taken. Certainly, that's in the public at this point. And that was Calvine, Scotland, 1990. And there were, I think, 5 or maybe 6 photographs of you can look it up, Calvine 1990 UFO photograph of a sort of diamond-shaped, diamond-shaped craft with, you can see a fence, you can see the ground, you can see the sky, and you have the craft here, like you can imagine the craft, and then you have a jet, a military jet flying around it. I'm told in the 5 or 6 pictures, the military jet is in a different position, and it's a Harrier jump jet. And the story goes that the individuals, there were 2 kitchen workers from a hotel near Calvine. It was 1990, it was August. And they went on an afternoon hike after their shift. There it is. Yeah, great photograph. They went on a hike after their shift, and they came upon, and I hiked up to the exact spot with 99.9% certainty. They came upon an object that was hovering silently, and they were terrified. It was very low. I'm not sure if they could hit it with a rock with their hand, if they threw a rock with their arm, but it was very low, and they were terrified, and they were hiding under this tree, sort of just like in disbelief. What is this thing? And when the military jet arrived and did a pass around it, they got the courage, and they had a camera with them, and they shot. It was at least 5, and it might have been 6. Incredible photographs. And they went to the local paper, I think it was Scotland Daily Record, and they were going to publish the story with all the prints, 2 witnesses, broad daylight, really good photograph, points of reference with a military jet going around. And the publication contacted a gentleman named Craig Lindsay, who was the RAF press officer at the time, Royal Air Force, in Scotland. And they were like, hey, we're about to run this story, and we wanted to get a statement from the Royal Air Force about this alleged craft. And the guy says, what craft? And they said, well, he goes, well, I haven't seen the photographs. So the Scotland Daily Record sent one of the prints to Craig Lindsay, RAF press officer. And of course, he got the print, and his jaw hit the floor. It's like, what? And then he reports back to the MOD, and he goes, and he was tasked with investigating. He contacted the witnesses. He was interviewing them. And then he gets a phone call from the higher ups at the MOD, cease and desist. We're going to take over. And then the prints disappeared. The witnesses disappeared, and the case vanished for nearly 34 years.
Wow.
And yeah, so we get an interview, first time ever on camera, with Craig Lindsay. Again, thank you to David Clark and his crew that worked on that story. We get an interview with Clark, the guy that did the analysis, Nick Pope, the MOD, what happened. And then at the last possible minute, Richard Graves, who was working with allegedly with the 2 witnesses in the kitchen at the time, for the first time goes on camera, gives us an interview. He'd given an interview in print, but he went on.
You put his picture up during the
film. An interview over the phone together, yes. And
yeah.
And he just describes he was a witness. He said that this car rolled up on their cigarette break in the evening. It was pissing wet with rain, and these 2 gentlemen got out of the back in dark suits and scared the living daylights out of the witnesses, and they vanished a couple weeks later, and they've never been seen since.